Instead, it seemed to be facing a doll I hadn't seen before. This one still had its jaw as well, and I swear, it looked just like Josh. Same tatty brown jacket, same old jeans. Its black woolen hair even did that flicky thing he always spent so long getting right.
Interesting. Huh. It's almost like some kind of like, I guess like a voodoo organ or something like that. You know, you play it and like the soul gets like trapped in a doll's body or something like that. That's what it sounds like. Weird. What's going on, everybody? John Matrix here. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day wherever you're at and whenever you're watching this. We're going to be jumping into another Magnus Archives episode here. Episode 24, Strange Music. Links, as always, will be down below in the description to the Rusty Quill podcast YouTube channel, the Magnus Archives playlist, and to their website. So please do me a favor. If you've been enjoying the Magnus Archives series as much as I have, please go over to their YouTube channel. All the videos that you've enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button on their channel, check out their website, check out their Patreon, check out any kind of YouTube membership stuff they have going on to see about any kind of ways that you can give them some extra love and support if you would like to. You can do the same for my channel if you want to. There's a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description, the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I have to offer, so you can check that out if you'd like to. We also have playlists on my channel for the various universes that I've done reactions to, the SCP Foundation, Warhammer Fantasy 40k, etc. So if any of that would have any interest for you, you can check those out as well if you would like. Regardless, thank you guys very much for taking the time out of your busy day to come in and hang out and check out the video. I do hope you enjoy it. If you do, consider leaving a like and a sub, as it helps me and the channel grow. With all of the YouTube plugs done and said, let's get into this here. Again, this is episode 24 of the Magnus Archives, Strange Music. Do it. Why is this one quieter again?
Rusty Quill presents the Magnus Archives.
Breaking news. Ominous strings continue to be ominous tonight at 11.
Episode 24. Strange Music.
Statement of Lianne Denikin regarding an antique Calliope organ she possessed briefly in August 2004. Original statement given January 17th, 2005. Audio recording by Jonathan Sims, head archivist of the Magnus Institute, London. Statement begins.
You know, I wonder how much John's getting paid to do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're kind of like a privately funded organization. We know that they have, like, the Lucas family apparently has ties in with them, which is interesting. But yeah, I was just sitting here thinking, right, like, how much does John get paid to just go through all these archives and, you know, essentially re-record them into an audio? Asking them, yeah, for real. I'm just curious, you know, what kind of salary does John get paid to do this and any kind of investigation, you know, work into any of these archives?
Let me be clear. I'm not scared of clowns.
Oh boy.
I don't find them funny either, just a bit baffling, really. I've never understood why people would find grown men in stupid makeup and wigs funny or scary. It's the same with dolls. People talk about their cold, dead eyes, but they don't seem to have any problem with statues. I suppose now I've got good reason to be scared of both. I just want you to understand I wasn't
Got attacked by a clown statue?
seeing things out of fear. This happened. It didn't come as a surprise. when my grandfather died last August. I'd been living with him for almost 2 years at his home in Bootle, looking after him through his illness. My mother was having her own difficulties at the time, and my good-for-nothing father wanted nothing to do with any of it, so looking after my grandpa came down to me. It wasn't so bad, really. My grandpa was a strange man at times. He'd been a carny for most of his life, working with traveling circuses and freak shows all over Europe, and was something of a recluse in his later years. He could also swear a blue streak a mile wide. Get him behind the keys of a piano, though, and I don't know anyone who could play as beautifully as he could. Like I say, it wasn't a surprise when he finally died, but I still found it difficult. As you may have guessed, I don't have a great relationship with my parents, and have always had some problems making friends, so when he went, it hit me hard. I didn't go out that week, or the next. I saw Joshua, my partner, I suppose you'd have called him, but aside from that I didn't see anyone between Grandpa's death and the funeral. It was just me, Josh, and my mother. Grandpa had never been a churchgoer, but my mother had a lot of faith, so paid for a Methodist funeral, such as it was. It was a hot, muggy day, and I remember wondering whether the stinging in my eyes was from the tears or the sweat. As it turned out, Grandpa had left me his house. It didn't really sink in for a while. The house had been the most home I'd had for so long that I always felt it was mine in some ways. Going through my grandpa's old papers and possessions was harder than I had expected. It was only reading some of his old letters that I discovered his birth name was Nikolai. He'd always just gone by Nick. Eventually, I sorted through everything. I had a small box of memories I wanted to keep, but I just wasn't up to throwing the rest away yet. I decided to store them in the loft. I knew the house had one, although I had never been inside. It had always been locked. It wasn't a mystery or anything, just that my grandpa hadn't needed to get anything from up there while I was living with him. At least I thought so. It was only then I realized I had never been inside it. More annoyingly, I quickly discovered that none of the keys I'd been given for the place were for the padlock. No luck searching for it around the rest of the house either. In the end, I had to cut the lock off with a pair of bolt cutters I found in the garage. There was also a ladder in the garage, so getting up through the small square hole wasn't a problem. I realized then that I didn't have a torch. It was very dark. Despite it being the middle of summer, the loft...
People just keep, like, going into things unprepared, not having a flashlight or anything like that. Like, I mean, I don't know. These are the first things that I think of. It's like, okay, I'm going to be going into, like, some kind of dark attic area. I'm probably going to need a flashlight. Let me go get that before I even, like, get into this.
It was cool, almost cold. I considered heading back down to get a torch and a jacket, but as I reached out my hand, it brushed against something which felt like a pull cord. I gave it a tug, and a small,
That's what she
bulb
said.
came to life, and I saw what was inside. When I had first remembered about the loft, I'd been annoyed. I thought there'd be so much more stuff up there, days more sorting to go through. But when I turned on the light, I saw that it was almost completely empty. The only things there were an old steam...
Is there a slight bit of static there? I'm going to rewind this just to hear, because it sounds like the very finest hint of static showed up in the background there.
Been annoyed. I thought there'd be so much more stuff up there, days more sorting to go through. But when I turned on the light, I saw that it was almost completely empty. The only things there were an old steamer trunk,
Maybe not.
stool, and a bright red Calliope organ. The ceiling was higher than I expected as well. I could stand at my full height without stooping. I walked slowly towards the old steam organ. It was bright red and in excellent condition except for a thick layer of dust. There was a small brass plaque simply reading, "The Calliophone." The brass pipes that stuck out from the top still shone faintly under the dust, and I noticed that there was writing carved onto the cover of the keyboard. It read, "Be still, for
There's static.
there is strange music."
Be still, for there is strange music.
I went to
Okay.
the steamer trunk next, and was surprised to find it unlocked. Opening it released a cloud of dust, and I coughed a few times before I got the heavy lid up. Inside were dolls. Lots of them. They looked old, with ragged, limp cloth bodies topped with oversized round heads and large, painted eyes that stared up from their shadowed trunk. The hair on each was intricate and woolen, and while they certainly weren't the sort of dolls a ventriloquist would use, the heads had similar mouths, wooden blocks that would have opened and closed to simulate speech. At least, they should have had. Almost.
I don't know why, but this is like making me think of like Chuck E. Cheese. I don't know if any of you guys in the States, went to Chuck E. Cheese when you were little and they had, that weird animatronic music band. This is what it's making me think of.
All of them had had their jaw block roughly torn off, leaving nothing but jagged splinters between their cheeks. There were 23 dolls I counted in total, and only one of them still had its jaw intact. It was the oldest looking by far, and was a small clown doll. Its threadbare body was white and purple polka dot, with 3 pom-poms down the front, and a ruff just below the head. It had no woolen hair left, but instead there was a tall, pointed white cap on top. Its face was painted a pure white, and its eyes were shut, with black lines drawn across them. The only color was a splash of red across the hinged jaw. A smile. Like I said, I'm not scared of clowns and I'm not scared of dolls. The thing was ugly, though. I was kind of relieved, actually, to have found some of my grandpa's old things that I would have no problem throwing away. Or maybe selling.
I mean, yeah, I was going to say, right? Like, they could have some actual value. They're old, potentially antique dolls, even though they might be in some kind of disarray, right? Somewhere out there, they could be a part of some kind of collection, Should at least get them looked at and appraised, right? Especially the antique, organ.
They were definitely antiques, so they might have been worth something. In any case, I put the nasty-looking clown doll back in the box and closed the lid. I definitely closed the lid.
We're gonna get, like, a Chucky thing going on here, where the doll's possessed and gonna come after him with a knife, right? That's where I feel like this is going.
I went back over to the Calliope.
I thought it was pronounced Calliope.
Sasha, you're back early. I thought you were trying to get hold of those police reports for the Harold Sylvana case.
Tried and succeeded.
Another new person. Sophie interrupting now. At least it wasn't Martin running around naked again.
Actually quite helpful.
Oh. Well, good work.
So, do we know if it's pronounced Calliope or Calliope?
I have also heard it said as Calliope.
Seriously? By who?
Americans.
Ah.
Oh,
As far as I can
okay.
tell, there isn't a correct pronunciation, but they were originally named after the Greek muse Calliope, so...
Are people going to understand
So then just call it a Calliope.
that it's from Greek mythology?
If they are working for the Magnus Institute, then I would hope so.
I've just heard it more often as Calliope.
Statement resumed.
Anyway.
I went back over to the Calliope.
It's Calliope. Adjust glasses.
There was no lock on the lid, or any switch that I could see on the outside. I opened it, and the keys inside shone as though they had just been polished. Now, at the time, I didn't know how a Calliope worked. I just thought it was like a weird pipe piano. I didn't know that there needed to be a blower working for the thing to play, and even if I had, I wouldn't have known where to find one or how to use it. By rights, when I sat in front of it and pressed the first key down, Nothing should have happened. The 4 tall rows of brass whistles should have remained silent. Instead, there came a loud, howling tone from one of the pipes, and I almost fell off my seat in surprise. I remember once hearing that the sound of a steam organ could be heard from over a mile away, and when that shrill whistle sounded, I could believe it. I started to play a tune. My grandpa had had a piano once. It had broken years before, and he'd never had the money to replace it, but he had taught me the basics. There was one tune that, when I was a child, I always insisted he play to me. He never told me its name, if it even had one. I always used to just call it Faster, Faster, by way of a description. A cheery, upbeat circus melody that started out almost unbearably slow and gathered in tempo, getting faster and faster until my grandpa's fingers were a blur. He always indulged me when I asked him to play it, and now I played it for him. The wailing whistles were almost deafening in that cramped space. I knew I'd probably be hearing from the neighbors about it, but I didn't care. I just played. The tune got...
There is some creepy music going on in the background there, I'm not gonna lie.
I just played. The tune got faster, more frantic, and I felt something building inside me. It was like final closure for the loss of my grandpa was just out of reach, and if I got faster, if I played with enough speed, I could catch it. But my finger slipped, and the music abruptly became a discordant cacophony. I was never as good as Grandpa Nick. I sat there in silence for a minute. When I turned to leave, though, I saw that the old steamer trunk was open, and the clown doll lay on top of the pile. Even though its painted eyes were still shut.
I wonder if this Calliope like controls the doll or whatever, like if he plays the music and it like controls it and gets them to move or something. That was like what his act was, you know, the grandpa's act was when he was, you know, a carny in his circus.
Shut.
And like he had to play the music in a certain way, and if you did it, it would get them to move and control them. But then, like, you know, I guess maybe if you messed up or changed the tone in certain ways, it would do certain things.
Felt like it was looking at me. Its smile seemed slightly wider than before. I shut the trunk and climbed down the ladder. I didn't really think about the weird things in the loft over the next week or so. I had too much else to do. It was only when Josh was next round and asked me why the small hole into the attic was open that I remembered. I told him I had something cool to show him and got the ladder out. He was suitably impressed by the Calliope, but freaked out a bit over the dolls. I didn't realize he was scared of them. He made me shut the steamer trunk almost as soon as he saw them, and kept...
Didn't you already shut it twice now? Keeps reopening itself. Little pattern here.
looking over to make sure it was closed. I decided not to tell him about the first time it had popped open. He asked if I could play anything on the ancient steam organ, and so I sat down and began to play my grandpa's old circus tune. Again, I began to pick up speed, to play faster and faster as the whistles began to shriek. I felt a hand touch mine firmly, abruptly stopping the music. Josh stood there, shaking slightly, his face deathly pale. On impulse, I looked over to the chest of dolls, but the lid was firmly shut. I asked him what was wrong, and he said he didn't know, he just wanted to leave. Now.
Interesting.
So we did. Climbed back down out of the loft, and I lowered the wooden trapdoor behind us. The next few weeks were unpleasant. I don't want to go into detail. Let's just say I discovered that Josh was just another asshole after all. Our relationship was already going through a rocky patch. It didn't help that in those last weeks he became moody, short-tempered, constantly on edge. When I finally found out that he
couldn't have anything to do with that Calliope you were playing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. When I finally found out that he had... Yeah, it doesn't matter. We broke up. It left me pretty much destroyed, coming so soon after my grandpa's death. I just tuned everything out again. Eventually, it was tripping over a box that did it. One of the ones I'd put all my grandpa's stuff into and never actually got round to putting in the loft. I decided to just get it over with. I guess I hoped a tidier house would give me more space to think. So for the third time, I got out that ladder and climbed into the loft. It didn't take as long to store all the boxes as I'd thought, and within an hour I was done. I had been so intent on packing away all my memories that I hadn't even looked at the old steamer trunk. As I went to climb down, I glanced over, and I froze. The lid was open again, and the clown doll was on top. It wasn't looking at me this time. Instead, it seemed to be facing a doll I hadn't seen before. This one still had its jaw as well, and I swear, it looked just like Josh. Same tatty brown jacket, same old jeans. Its black woolen hair even did that flicky thing he always spent so long getting right.
Interesting. Huh. It's almost like some kind of like... I guess like a voodoo organ or something like that. You know, you play it and like the soul gets like trapped in a doll's body or something like that. That's what it sounds like. Weird.
It was lying against the side of the box, and I swear, it looked like the clown was reaching for it. I slammed the box lid down and got the hell out of there.
Bro, like, seal that shit shut at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, duct tape the hell out of it. Get some kind of lock. Like, make sure that shit isn't gonna open up again. Okay? Like, you've let it happen 2 or 3 times now. Take precautions. Seal that shit away.
I bought a padlock the next day.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, I've brought a copy of the police report I gave, because you have to believe me that I did not play that Calliope again. I had nothing to do with what happened to Josh.
Oh.
I came home from the cinema about
It is. It feels almost kind of like a voodoo thing where, like, if you play that organ around someone, they get marked and a doll gets made of them, and then something will happen to them and their soul gets, like, trapped in the doll or something, I think. That's what it feels like is where this is going.
A week later to find that my house, had been broken into. Here, it's all in the report on the burglary I gave to the police. The front door lock was shattered and it swung gently to and fro. At first I ran into my living room, my bedroom, but nothing had been taken. The electronics, my jewelry, it was untouched. I felt my stomach drop as I realized and ran towards the loft. Sure enough, it was open, the padlock torn from its hook. The Calliope and the steamer trunk were gone. They questioned my neighbors about it.
How are you going to be able to carry all that out of there without anyone noticing, right?
None of them had seen anything except for Mrs. Harlow next door, who said she noticed 2 people taking out pieces of red sheet metal and brass pipes. She didn't remember any
2
details,
people.
just said that they looked legitimate, and she thought I was having some things moved.
I wonder if that moving company that brought the coffin to the guy at the episode 2 is going to somehow be involved in this.
The police never found them. I just need you to believe that, to know I didn't play the thing again. It wasn't my fault what happened to Josh. God knows I hated him enough back then, but I could never have called anything like that upon him. Not like that. I don't suppose you need me to tell you how they found him. 4 days later, dead in his room. His throat was crushed, and his jaw was torn clean off.
Yikes.
The police never found it. I wouldn't have thought of it, really. Wouldn't have put it all together even then. Not if it hadn't been for the fact that in the last days of our relationship, Josh had broken down. He told me that he still heard that Calliope music.
So it's interesting, right? That like it seems like whoever plays it is maybe immune to the effects, but anyone around that hears it, I guess, is potentially susceptible to whatever it does, right?
Far off when he was alone, and it had been getting gradually closer. I mean, they say you can hear one from almost a mile away. Statement ends.
That's definitely
While I
creepy.
have what I would consider to be some natural reservations about a tale of murderous clown dolls, there are a few things that make me more inclined than usual to believe this statement. Firstly, as Ms.
John not being the skeptic this time.
Denikin mentioned, she did provide a copy of the official police report into the burglary, which includes testimony from one Irene Harlow that appears to confirm Ms. Denikin did possess both a steamer trunk and Calliope organ, so those at least existed. The death of Joshua Drury is also at least as mysterious as she made it sound. In addition to his jaw being torn clean off his skull, residual evidence indicates that his throat was crushed with some sort of rope, apparently woven out of thick wool. There was no evidence of a struggle or of forced entry, no DNA evidence of anyone in the room aside from himself. No one was ever arrested for the crime. When discussing this case, Tim said it reminded him of some articles he'd read on traveling circuses in Russia and Poland during the early 20th century. On a whim, I hunted down a few of the volumes he mentioned in the Institute's library, and sure enough, on page 43 of Gregory Petrie's Freaks and Followers, Circuses in the 1940s, I found a reproduction of an old black and white photograph. It shows a small group of carnival workers, a contortionist, a fire-eater, 2 strong men, a ringmaster, and an organist sitting behind a Calliope. The photograph is labeled as being from 1948 and taken in Minsk, Russia. Only the ringmaster and organist are named, Gregor Orsinov and Nikolai Denikin. The name of the troupe was Tsark Drogrova, the circus of the other. The name rings a bell, but I can't find any other reference to it. Ms. Denikin emigrated to Southeast Asia 2 years ago, so was unavailable for any follow-up, but I'm sure there must be more on this somewhere in the archives.
She got the hell out of town, huh?
Because I know for a fact that sitting in the Magnus Institute's artifact storage is a bright red Calliophone steam organ. When I asked Elias, he just told me that the record of its acquisition was probably in the archive somewhere.
Interesting.
And no one else knows anything beyond the fact that it was acquired somewhere in 2007. The keyboard cover is firmly locked, and scratched into the surface are the words, "Be still, for there is strange music."
Not a coincidence.
End recording.
Seems like Gertrude might have gotten a hold of it and sealed it away. I still feel like there was more going on with the previous head archivist than we know. I feel like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe we'll find out, in future episodes, but I feel like Gertrude was doing more behind the scenes. I don't know, that just from that one episode where the guy was able to go into that like dreamscape and saw all the tendrils either going to or from Gertrude, and her like seeming like it was absorbing, like she was absorbing the energy or something like that. Like, I don't know. I feel like there was something more going on with her, and then she like mysteriously died right before Jonathan became the head archivist. So interesting, very interesting.
The Magnus Archives is a podcast distributed by rustyquill.com and licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike International License. Today's episode was written and performed by Jonathan Sims. It was produced by Alexander J. Newell, Mike LeBeau, and Murray Porter, and directed by Alexander J. Newell. To comment on episodes, make donations, and view links, images, videos, and show notes, visit rustyquill.com. Rate and review us on iTunes, visit us on Facebook, tweet us on Twitter @The Rusty Quill, or email us at mail@rustyquill.com. Thanks for listening.
There you go. You heard all the ways you can check them out. Links will be down below in the description, as always, to the Magnus Archives playlist, the Rusty Quill podcast YouTube channel, and to their website. So please do me a favor, if you've been enjoying the series as much as I have, go over to their YouTube channel, like all the videos that you've enjoyed. Be sure to hit that sub button on their channel if you haven't already. Check out their website, check out their YouTube membership stuff they got, any kind of stuff they got going on Patreon, if you want to give them some extra love and support. Interesting episode. I'm not personally one that really has any kind of fear of dolls or clowns. I do kind of think clowns can be a little creepy, but I'm not really like afraid of them in any kind of way, really. But it definitely kind of gave, like I said, it felt kind of like, you know, I always thought when I was a kid, you know, going to Chuck E. Cheese, they had like this animatronic band that would play, and I always thought that was kind of like weird and kind of creepy, and it gave me the similar vibes to kind of that. But it also was making me think of the old Chucky movies, you know, where the doll is possessed, you know, and comes alive and starts going on like a killing spree, etc. But from the rest of the story, it really almost kind of sounds like whoever listens to the Calliope, their soul potentially can be like marked or cursed or taken, and they get turned into like a doll or something like that. Maybe if there's a specific tune that gets played, and the tune that she played just happens to be it. I don't know, but very interesting. Very interesting. And of course, it's also more of an interesting coincidence of the fact that the Magnus Archive has that. But also, 2 people were reported to have broken into the house and taken the Calliope and the trunk. So, like, what does that mean? Again, I was wondering if whatever that moving company is, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but they've been referenced in a couple of episodes now. The one that I most notably remember was in episode 2 with where they delivered the coffin to the guy at his apartment. I wonder if they were involved somehow, or if this specifically could have been the former head archivist Gertrude sending people over there to like literally steal it. You know, as was referenced in this episode, it can be heard miles away, and you know, maybe Gertrude had some other things going on, heard it, was like, yo, we need to go contain this, and they straight up went and jacked it. Seems like that might not be the case. It seems like they might have acquired it some other way, perhaps, maybe in an auction or something like that. Who knows? But very interesting. Bringing hope and deliveries. Pretty different with Towards Dolls, or the creation of Dolls Fascinating. I've always been partial to puppets myself. I also wonder if the jaw being removed thing has to do with like the completion of the dolls, right? Because some of the dolls were incomplete. They didn't have jaws. I think the only one was the original like clown one, right? And it makes me also wonder, right, like, is the clown like is the soul of, you know, they mention at the end about the circus of the other, and they only had 2 names, right? They had Danica's like grandpa, whatever, relative, his name was there, And then they had the name of like the ringleader, I think. Yeah, right, exactly. That's what I'm saying, right? He was seemingly strangled by some kind of wool, which the dolls were made of. So it seems like one of the dolls killed him. And then his jaw was removed. Although I don't think it was ever stated if the... Like originally she stated she saw a doll that looked like Josh, but without a jaw. Right? So I'm wondering, right, like if it's a situation where the doll of the person like tries to go and kill them and remove their jaw so that that doll can like speak or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And so like the other dolls that don't have jaws were like people who are marked, but they were never killed and their jaws were never removed and placed in the jaws, you know what I mean? But I wonder if the like clown doll was the ringleader of the circus, right? If that person's soul or whatever got put into there by you know, her grandpa. Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe it was like one of the other members of the troupe, the circus troupe. But interesting story. I'm curious to see in future episodes if this has any kind of threads that will connect to it in the future. So Josh's doll did have a jaw when she saw it. I thought it said it didn't. I thought it said originally it was missing a jaw. I'd have to go back and re-listen to it. But I'll take your word for it because you've listened to this a lot more than me. But I thought she said that it was missing a jaw originally. But I could have just misheard what she said. So, but I mean, if that's the case, then I mean, that would make sense, right? You know, doll is complete and he was turned into it and yeah, he's got a jaw. So, but yeah, that was episode 24 of the Magnus Archives Strange Music. Like I said, links will be down below for all of their stuff so you can go check them out and find out ways you can give them some extra love and support. You can do the same for my channel if you would like to. There is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I have to offer. So you can check those out if you would like to. We also have playlists for other universes that I do reactions for here on the channel. The SCP Foundation, Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer 40k, etc. So if any of that stuff would have any interest for you, if you want to check out those videos, you can always look at those up on the channel. Like I said, there's playlists for those. Regardless, thank you very much for coming and hanging out, checking out the video. If you are still here watching at the very end, I greatly appreciate it. I greatly appreciate the support and you watching the video all the way through. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider leaving a like and a sub, as it helps me and the channel grow. And yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Have yourselves a wonderful day.